Welcome back to Two Keto Dudes. This is Carl Franklin from Connecticut in the United States.
Yeah, but you're not in the United States, are you? You're in Australia.
I am. Right.
Right.
And in February 2016, I put myself on a ketogenic diet to take control of my metabolism. In just 2.5 months, I managed to reverse all my markers of type 2 diabetes with diet alone. As of now, I'm 80 pounds lighter with no signs of diabetes or heart disease.
Hi, I'm Richard Morris, and I'm also in Canberra, Australia, and I've been on a ketogenic diet since April of 2014. When I started, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. Within 6 months of starting a ketogenic diet, all of my biomarkers of disease had disappeared. I've lost about 100 pounds, and I've completely turned my health around.
And that noise you hear is the ambient sounds of Richard's back porch here in Canberra.
Yeah, we thought it would be fun to record the intro and outro of this show outside on the porch.
And this show is a document of our experiences thriving for years in nutritional ketosis.
Thriving and reversing diabetes.
Yeah, and hopefully that might help a few people who are curious about this kind of dietary hacking.
Yeah, we're not doctors. We don't want to give any medical advice, but we are keen to share our own experiences. We're actually both software developers, so we're not afraid of a little technical detail, are we, Carl?
Nope, nope-a-dope.
We've done some research into our own deranged metabolisms and the science behind them, and we share studies that we found in the show notes.
You'll probably work out pretty quickly that we're both foodies.
Oh, yeah.
We love to cook and we love to eat.
Yep.
And every episode, we both share a keto recipe that, it's probably not bad.
Well, today it's one we have for breakfast, so yeah, it's excellent.
It's actually really good. All right, so let's start podcast number 134, Nadia Pateguana, Ketogenic Naturopath. Heard you say you're due for a little. So, Richard, do we have any apologies or corrections from last week's show?
Let's see. Last week's show was number 133, When Bodies Revolt with Brandon Wen.
Yeah.
No, that was a perfect episode, and it was perfectly edited by the guest. We make our guests do all the editing as well.
It was. I really appreciate that Brandon told his story in its entirety.
Yeah.
Because it's a long story, but man, is it a good story. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon, for that. So let's revisit what a ketogenic diet is. Ketogenic diet is any diet that puts you into a state of ketosis, where you're burning fat for energy rather than glucose. And one surefire way to do that is to limit your carbohydrate intake daily to 20 grams or less.
Yeah, it forces your body to use fat for energy instead of burning glucose for energy.
That's right. Protein is moderate. We use 1 to 1.5 grams of protein every day for every kilogram that we have of lean body mass.
Yeah, you don't want to use protein for energy either. We're going to use fat for energy.
That's right. Fat. Duck fat, chicken fat, beef fat.
All the fat.
Pork fat.
Yeah, so you want to get your energy from fat. It doesn't matter if it's the energy on your plate or the energy on your body. This is, our bodies are fueled on fat.
Absolutely. And if you're just starting this keto thing, listen to our Starting Keto show at start.2keto.com. So, buddy, how was your week?
I spent my week with a keto dude named Carl Franklin.
That's right.
Carl came to visit and has been staying at my place for the past week, and we've been doing lots of fun keto dude activities. We've been getting ready for Keto Fest. This is going to happen at the National Press Club of Australia in Canberra at the end of this week on Sunday, the 16th of September.
That's right.
By the time you hear this podcast, it will all be done and dusted. But right now, we're just in the last throes of getting ready for the VIP party, which is going to be a party here at my house on my deck. We're getting equipment all showing up tomorrow. We're getting lights, party lights, and we're getting tables for 30 people. And, cleaning the pool, grooming the yard. Exactly.
Yeah.
The dog's going to go into daycare for a couple of days, and we're getting ready for a party. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing this week. What have you been doing, Carl?
Well, I've been here, obviously, helping you, getting ready for Keto Fest Down Under, but a couple of things have stuck out so far. I mean, I love Australia.
Cool.
I'm having a great time here in Canberra. This is my second time to your country. The first one was about 10 years ago. But yesterday we went out for a cycle at Magic Hour.
Yeah.
To shoot some wallabies and kangaroos.
Yeah.
With a camera.
Yeah, not with a gun.
That's right. With a camera.
Yeah.
And we've been eating ketogenic food to excess this week, I got to admit, and it's been amazing. For the first time, I've had lamb breast.
Right. Or lamb flaps, we're called here.
Yeah, right. It's the ribs, the front ribs, which are bigger than the Chateaubriand kind of ribs. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Amazing. I also tasted your truffle ice cream, which I'm going to demo.
Yeah.
I'm going to demo making this with crushed dry ice.
Outstanding. It's going to be a science experiment, people.
Oh my God, I've already ordered some dry ice back home, which I'm going to pick up on my way home from the airport.
And you're going to do this in front of a crowd of 70 people at Keto Fest down under at the National Press Club of Canberra.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. So the whole idea behind this method is you make a custard, your anglaise, like you normally do for an ice cream. And then you powder the dry ice in a food processor and just whiz it up in a KitchenAid with the anglaise. And like in minutes, you've got perfect ice cream.
Yeah, you don't have to wait multiple hours and then freeze it, and you don't have to do any of that. And the thing is that the ice crystals are absolutely perfectly formed in the milk. And so it's perfect texture of ice cream.
Absolutely. So those are some of the highlights from my week. But another thing that we did, and we just did this today, we've been toying with this idea of helping other people do their own keto fests.
Right.
And keto mini fests, which is, a 4-hour, 5-hour version of a keto fest.
Sure.
And we talked it through, and we decided that it'd be very difficult for us to require a list of things for every keto fest to have. Just because we had them and they were successful doesn't mean that it's appropriate for every other keto fest, and it could still be a keto fest.
Every keto fest will be different because it is rooted in the community that it's serving.
Right.
And so, a keto fest in Canberra will be different than a keto fest in New London, different from keto fests in other countries. So, each is going to be slightly different. There's a couple of things that we want people to have in all of the keto fests so that people know what to expect. They know if they're going to a keto fest, they'll have the unique keto fest experience.
Right. They're going to have a social aspect of it.
Sure.
They're going to have food as a major component of it, whether that's cooking demonstrations or a meal or both.
Yep.
There's going to be lectures or talks.
And people will be able to mingle with the presenters.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be social. And so, that's really what we want to make sure that people know when they're going to a keto fest that they're going to have a similar experience to all of the keto fests, but it will be unique for that particular region.
Right. So what we decided to do was have an application that anybody can fill out if they want to host their own keto fest, call it a keto fest, and have our support.
Right.
Which we think is a valuable thing because we've got this great brand.
Yeah.
Right. People know when somebody says to you, I went to a keto fest, you immediately think of barbecues and, cooking demonstrations and talks and this great social atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to just make sure that everybody follows the spirit of Keto Fest.
And the smaller ones that will waive the licensing fee, we'll help you out. We'll show you what we did. And we'll try and give you as much support as we can. Yep. And the larger ones will take a small licensing fee, which will help cover our costs. So, that hopefully that's going to give people a template that they can reuse to make keto fests happen all over the world. And that's our goal we want to have keto fests, unique keto fests to the regions that they're going.
We want to have one going every weekend all over
the world.
Wouldn't
that be great?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah. So the application that you can fill out is at host.ketofest.com. Host.ketofest.com. Go there and check it out. Even if you're interested, maybe you just want to know what's involved, go read it. It's good. So that's what I've been doing this week. I think it's time to give away some swag.
Sure. Every show we pick a lucky winner at random from the members of the Two Keto Dudes fan club.
Yep. Today we're giving away a treasure trove of stuff from vendors we like, all of which you can find at fanclub.2keto.com.
We also need to mention a caveat. Most of our vendors can only ship inside the United States.
That's right. But if we happen to pick someone outside the U.S., we will find something to send you, but it probably won't be the whole treasure trove. Until we can find an affordable means of distribution, that is.
So who's our winner this week?
Well, today's winner, Richard, is Terry Collier.
Congratulations, Terry.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody what Terry has won.
Right. Well, the first thing we're giving away today is a 2 Keto Dudes coffee mug with our mugs on it that says keep calm and keto on.
And a signed copy of Lies My Doctor Told Me by Dr. Ken Berry, online at lies.2keto.com.
And a bottle of Stevia Sweet Barbecue Sauce, developed by a barbecue restaurant owner who plans to change the restaurant industry forever. Only 2 carbs per serving, online at steviasweetbbq.com.
And a cheese-making kit from Wine & Whey. Pam Zorn gave everybody at Keto Fest a kit so they could make their own fresh mozzarella. You can find this online at wineandwhey.com. That's WINEANDWHEY.com.
And a 6-ounce cup of beef bone broth concentrate from Birthright Nutrition. Simply add water, heat, stir, sip, and enjoy. Jam-packed with good stuff. More at birthrightnutrition.com.
We're also giving away a bottle of Remag Magnesium Solution developed by Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with a copy of her protocol, and the Keto and Magnesium Manifesto, online at magmiracle.com.
You can hear the dingoes in the back. We're also giving away a big bottle of fasting drops from Keto Chow. It's a well-formulated blend of electrolytes. Just drop a little in your water and fasting will be a breeze. Online at fastingdrops.2keto.com.
And 2 bottles of Sated, 1 chocolate, 1 vanilla, online at sated.2keto.com.
And from Keto & Co., a sampler 6-pack, a bag of brownies, 4 bags of different flavored cauliflower rices, and a bag of flatbread, online at ketoand.co.
And if you don't want to wait to win some swag, you can buy all sorts of it online at gear.2keto.com.
And that brings us squarely to
mail, which in Australia is carried in a kangaroo pouch. Did you know that?
No, it's not. I saw your mailman today.
We genetically engineered the kangaroos to deliver the mail.
Oh, my. Such lies. Well, anyway, my mail today is from the Ketogenic forums, and it's from John Somsky.
Yeah.
Now, John posted this in the great big public keto before and after thread.
What a great thread that is.
This is a great thread on the Ketogenic forums. It's a public invitation for anybody who has had success at the Ketogenic diet.
And if you want to share it.
Know that it's public. It goes out to the world.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of posts on here now, 448 posts.
But the thing is that single thread has caused people to think about doing keto. So if you've had success and you want to share that, be generous with that, because what you're going to find is that people will see that and go, hey, that's someone I know. And look how well they did. And, they may consider trying the intervention themselves.
Exactly. So John says, my name is John Somsky. I was born in 1968 and I have struggled with my weight my entire life. I went on my first diet when I was in the 2nd grade.
Wow.
I've tried nearly every diet imaginable and have literally lost hundreds of pounds on these diets over the course of my life. And with each diet, I've eventually gained back everything I lost with a little extra for good measure.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I've always thought of myself as the fat kid, which has been frustrating and a source of shame for me. As a child, I always needed to order the largest shirt available when participating in extracurricular activities, and I had to shop in the husky section for jeans. Sears. Man, I remember having to wear those.
So the husky section, that's not for sled dogs, is it?
No. Husky was a brand of jeans at Sears that were stretchable. They were like polyester jeans.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah.
I was always very aware of my extra weight. Despite being fairly short, I wrestled in the 168-pound weight class as a sophomore in high school, when I should have been at least 30 pounds lighter.
Wow.
I was even happy when I managed to lose 20 pounds and got down to a still obese 210 pounds one summer during college. And I considered it a victory when I was able to get down to 275 when I got married in 2002. Each success was heavier than ones in years before and emphasized the overall trend of failure. Before I got married, I followed the Atkins diet for a couple of years. I felt better on this diet than any other, and I had the most control over my hunger.
Oh, that's so familiar.
Yeah. However, I did stall toward the end after a year or so, and that decreased my motivation.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and not only does it decrease your motivation, everybody else in your life decreases your motivation because they tell you you're not losing weight.
Yeah, that's right.
So he goes on. As a result, I decided to stop the Atkins diet, quote unquote, temporarily for my honeymoon. but it would be years before I ever took low carbs seriously again. In 2008, I was diagnosed with diabetes and started taking metformin. I dabbled with lower carb diets over the next few years, but I didn't stay on them for very long, and I wasn't very disciplined. By 2015, my blood sugar was out of control. My A1C was 10.7.
Wow.
And that's almost as close as you got.
Yeah, I think mine was 11.2. But it's still up in the same range. It's virtually the same.
Right. My doctor gave me a few months to try to get it under control before more drastic measures would be taken. After 5 months of half-hearted attempts to lower my carb intake, I only managed to lower it to 10.6. 0.1 point.
10.7 to 10.6 after a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that people get frustrated and depressed with this.
Yeah. So in December 2015, my doctor prescribed Lantus, a long-acting insulin, to help control my blood sugar.
So now his pancreas wasn't able to make enough insulin that he had to inject it.
Right.
It's dreadful.
And this is the standard of care.
Yeah.
It took 120 units a day of insulin to control my blood sugars. With the addition of the insulin, my A1C bounced from 6.6 to 7.9 for the next few months.
Oh, so he's still diabetic.
He's still diabetic at 7.5.
The standard of care is to try and medicate us to 7.0, which is, it's medicating us to a diabetic state.
Right.
They don't want to medicate us to get lower than that because we run the risk of going hypoglycemic and you could end up in a coma. So, they want to keep you at the higher end of that.
The funny thing is, though, if they knew that your liver could produce all the glucose you need, you didn't need insulin.
Yeah, that's right.
It's because of the insulin you could run the risk of hypoglycemia.
Right.
Yeah. Without it, you don't.
Yeah. True.
During this time, my weight was increasing at a rapid pace, and the extra weight was placing extra stress on my joints. I couldn't stand for more than 30 minutes without extreme discomfort in my back, and my energy level was at an all-time low. I was also feeling lots of aches and pains in my joints, particularly in my knees.
Yeah.
I mean, all that weight is adding stress. That's true. But also, you're typically inflamed.
You put in a permanently inflamed state. You don't go in and out of bouts of inflammation, which is the body is designed to use inflammation as a way to repair things on a short-term basis.
Right.
We're not designed to stay there chronically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Around June of 2016, I started to listen to the Two Keto Dudes podcast.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah. And I thought that maybe a ketogenic diet would be my next attempt at a low-carb diet. I started to learn as much as I could and began to prepare myself for making a permanent lifestyle change as opposed to another temporary diet. Yep. In late October, I stepped on the scale and weighed 397.
Ooh.
That was the last straw.
Yeah.
I didn't want to break the 400-pound mark, so on November 1st, 2016, I started my keto diet. My doctor was supportive, and we came up with a plan for me to monitor my blood sugar and decrease my insulin as necessary, although I'm not sure he actually believed I would be able to stop the insulin.
Wow. But at least he had his doctor's engagement. If you are on insulin and you're starting a ketogenic diet, get your doctor involved because it's necessary to, once you get on a ketogenic diet, you may need to go off insulin and you're going to need your doctor to tell you how to do that safely.
That's right. They want to monitor you very closely.
Yeah.
That's right. Because you run this, it's a balancing act, right? So John goes on, as it turns out, by March of 2017, I was completely off my insulin and had lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. And in April of that year, I got even better news. My A1C was down to 7.0, which was as good as the insulin was able to maintain it.
Yeah, so he was able to do with diet what they were medicating him with a lot of insulin to get to.
With a big difference.
Yeah.
With insulin, he's gaining weight.
Right.
Without, he's losing weight.
Not that weight is a vital criteria.
No, but what's where it's coming off of his liver. His fatty liver is going away.
Yeah, that's what insulin does. It doesn't cause us to put on fat. What it does is it stops us burning fat. So the only thing we can do with it is put it into storage.
That's right.
And
So he's hungry all the time.
Yeah, because
so
he's got no energy,
more.
because he can't use the energy on his body. This explains the paradox of the fat man who's hungry all the time and lethargic. Yeah. If a man is fat and has all this energy on his body, why would he be hungry?
Right.
He has so much energy.
Right.
Why wouldn't he go out and exercise? Why would he say, I don't feel like exercise, if he's got all that energy? And it's because he can't use it.
Yeah, I've had the sensation, I know you have too, and a lot of other people, especially with pizza, right? Pizza is one of those things where I could have sat down in the past and eaten a whole large pizza by myself.
Not a problem.
Be completely stuffed.
Yeah.
Like hurting. My belly's hurting from being
physical
so full.
Capacity.
Physical capacity, and yet starving.
Yes. No, I've had that feeling exactly before.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Why is that?
It's because we can't use the energy.
Yeah. Well, he goes on here. This is the story gets better. So to recap, March 2017, completely off insulin, lost 30 pounds.
Right.
By April, his A1C was down to 7.0. So in May of 2017, I participated in my first extended fast, thanks to the support of Brenda Zorn and the Ketogenic Forum.
Well done, Brenda.
Well done. Yeah. The fast lowered my fasting blood sugar by almost 50 points immediately and permanently.
Nice.
It also spurred on even more rapid weight loss. By mid-June, I was down to 325 pounds, an over 50-pound loss, and my A1C was 5.5, the best I'd ever measured.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's non-diabetic.
Non-diabetic.
He has eaten himself to non-diabetes.
Yes. And no insulin.
Yep.
This is great. Yeah.
What a story.
What a story.
But that's not where his journey ends, is it?
Oh, no. There's
it gets
more.
better. Yeah.
So in January this year, 2018, my A1C was an astonishing 4.4, and my weight was down to 265, over 130 pounds lost.
Wow. Well done.
Well done.
Yeah. I should mention, actually, that John's HbA1c went down to 4.4, but everybody's HbA1c goes to a different level, and it depends on how long your red blood cells live. And each of our red blood cells live for different durations. If your red blood cells don't live as long, then you have a lower HbA1c. So, for example, his 10.6 or 10.7 that he started off with might be the same as my 11.2.
Right.
My 5.2 that I ended at might be the same as his 4.4.
Right.
We might have the same level of exposure to glucose, but my red blood cells just live longer than his, and so they have more chance to get more glycated over that time.
And the reason that we use A1C is because typically red blood cells live around 3 months on average.
Yeah, between 90 and 120 days.
Yeah.
So it could be between 3 months and 4 months your red blood cells live. And everybody has a different range. So
there you go. So my red blood cells might live longer, therefore my A1C will be higher.
Yeah. So his 4.4 is not necessarily better than somebody at my 5.2 or your 5.5. We just have red blood cells that live for different times. But look at it, his difference between 10.7 and 4.4. That's the critical thing.
Amazing.
That his point to point, because it's the same red blood cells, his point to point change has been dramatic.
All right. Well, it gets better. So since January, I've lost another 30 pounds for a total of 160 pounds lost.
Nice.
However, the control of my diabetes and being able to stop injecting insulin is an even bigger win. In addition, I can now stand for hours without pain.
Sure.
I can walk for several miles without a problem. And
he probably loves walking.
Absolutely. And my joints no longer ache. My health has improved dramatically, and I'm still working on losing more weight. I'd at least like to get to 200 pounds lost overall. Well, good luck, John.
It's good to have a goal, but
absolutely.
But as far as I'm concerned, he's already met all of my objectives.
He did it in the first 4 months.
Get yourself to be non-diabetic. That's the first thing. Yeah.
Get yourself all that insulin. You'll save a lot of money.
Yeah,
somebody will anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So the last paragraph. The weight is coming off more slowly now, but I have more control of my hunger than ever before. I feel confident that this is now my new way of life. And with the health improvements I've seen, I'm looking forward to a long and healthy adventure in the years to come.
Nice.
Well done, John.
You know, I like to say that when type 2 diabetics go keto, you notice something in their before and after photos that they start off with a generic fat person face. If John, at his largest, was 400 pounds-ish, 397 pounds at his largest. If he was in a group photo of other people who are type 2 diabetic. You wouldn't be able to pick them out. They all look the same.
Right.
And when people lose weight on keto, they get back their unique face.
That's right.
You know, and this is the thing, you know, you start off with a generic fat person's face, but by the end of the ketogenic journey, you've developed your unique face that's yours uniquely.
You got it back. It's what it looked like when you were 5.
Yeah. Well, actually, John didn't get his unique face. He actually got Simon Pegg's face.
Oh, that's interesting.
He looks like the movie star Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead and Star Trek. So, no, John, you got a semi-unique face back. But congratulations.
Yeah, it's great. It just warms my heart to hear stories like this. And a lot of these stories are online in this thread at support.2keto.com. And, you know, if you've got a story like that, we encourage you to share it with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my mail.
That's a long one, but
it's
a good one.
A great one. What do you got?
Mine's going to be a short one. This is actually from Chef Darren Tetley from the National Press Club of Australia at Canberra. And this is actually where we're going to be hosting our Keto Fest Down Under.
Now, before you talk about Darren, and I just want people to understand what the National Press Club is relative, and Americans in particular, relative to the United States. So Canberra is the Washington, D.C. of Australia.
It is, yeah.
It's the capital.
Yeah.
And the National Press Club is like our press club that you see when they hold press conferences or any of that stuff, where you get all the press, the reporters in a room, and then the bigwigs from Washington come in and they talk to the reporters.
And it's, for example, if, let's say, the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, wanted to announce a policy for education for the whole nation, she might go to the press club. She'll give a talk about the policy, about what their findings have been and how they're going to address it and what the new policy is going to be. And then the press in the front row will all ask questions, and then that'll appear on the news across the nation and in print, press. And so that's really what this venue is.
Yeah. So I want to impress upon the American audience that this is a big deal, right? And the restaurant has to be impeccable, and it's a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah. It's actually not a Michelin star. It's a two-hatted restaurant, which is an Australian.
The equivalent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a very, very highly rated restaurant. And so Chef Darren is the guy that
Darren Tetley. He's the executive chef at the National Press Club of Australia. And so the message from him was really, what I did was I went in a couple of weeks ago to show him how we were going to prepare these ketogenic meals, because Carl and I are both going to do a presentation on stage. I'm going to cook salmon and fennel salad, and then Carl's going to cook ice cream.
Truffle ice cream with dry ice.
Yeah, and duck fat caramel sauce.
Duck fat caramel sauce.
And pig's ears.
Yes.
This is a dessert for the ages. Darren's a genius. I mean, it really is. And I took this big container of allulose in because he said to me, how are we going to make ice cream? Because, you know, you ketogenic people can't eat sugar. And I said, well, we're going to use a sugar substitute. And he said, they're all really awful because they don't lower the melting point.
Yeah, they all get waxy and chunky.
And I said, we've got a special one called allulose that, I smuggled some into Australia.
Because it's illegal here.
Well, it's not illegal.
It's not approved.
It's not approved by our version of the FDA,
you can't buy
Therapeutic Goods Association. You can't buy it from an Australian vendor, but you can buy it on eBay, and people will ship it out to you, not a problem.
Okay.
And it's generally recognised as safe because it's a sugar that's found in small amounts in fruits. So, you know, it's been in our diet for 200,000 years.
So now get the picture. Australians have never tasted allulose before. They've never cooked with it before. Yeah. Richard's introducing them at the Capitol to allulose.
Yes.
So this is kind of a big thing.
It's a big deal.
Now, allulose isn't a sugar alcohol, so it's not going to upset your stomach.
That's right. Yeah.
It is not, based on the science that we read anyway, it has zero effect on insulin, zero effect on blood sugar, does not contribute to fatty liver disease.
About 70% as sweet as sugar.
About 70% as sweet as sugar.
Which is actually good for ketogenic people because we've all lost partly our sense of sweetness. So, you know, something that's 70% to us probably tastes, you know, extremely sweet to, to us.
Exactly. So that's the setup. Now, what did Darren say when you gave him the allulose to play with?
So I gave him a whole bottle. I said, you do whatever you want with it. I'll give you a second bottle that we're going to use for the Ketogenic Festival, but this is your bottle to play with.
Right.
And he said to me, we couldn't, I can't actually repeat this on a family show. We couldn't F it. We just couldn't. We tried. We couldn't F it. So,
and the reason is they tried burning it and, heating it up. It just doesn't.
And when you do that with sugar, it just turns black and acrid and nasty. Yeah. But this, he was able to make caramels that went so much further than sugar, became such intense, complex flavors.
Flavor, yeah.
Oh, just like caramel cubed.
And we made some here, the duck fat caramel sauce, just by taking 50% water, 50% allulose, boiling it down until it got a little yellow, then a little orange, and then brown, and then dark brown. Yeah. And we had it tonight over some clotted cream with berries. So
we did, good. And it was, and so you get the toffee with the allulose and water, and then once you have the toffee to as dark a color as you dare. I mean, you can have it amber if you want, and it's mild. But if you really want an adult flavor of caramel, just take it as far as you can. And then you add cream to it, and that's the caramel. But if you were to put that on something cold like ice cream, it'll set really hard, and it won't melt in your mouth as much. Right. It'll be like a waxy sort of feel to the mouth. That's why you add the duck fat. And what the duck fat does is it makes it melt when it hits your mouth, and it's absolutely delicious.
Wow, that was a good one.
Anyway, Darren, he just said this allulose stuff. Can you get some more of it for me? Because it's something that all of the restaurants want to cater for lots of dietary requirements. You have people who are, have celiac disease, they can't eat gluten. You have people who are diabetic who can't have sugar, and you have vegans who can't have animal products. And this sweetener would actually work for all of them. So he's very keen, and he's talking to other chefs about it, and they're very keen to get allulose into Australia. So,
well, that brings us to an interview that we did with Nadia Pateguana last week.
Yeah,
and she is a IDM employee. She's a coach at IDM
with Jason Fung and Megan Ramos.
And Megan, and also has a degree in biology and is a naturopath.
She is. She's got a degree in honors biology at McMaster's. So, she's the real deal.
So here you go. Let's roll the interview, and we'll see you on the other side. Dr. Nadia Pateguana is here. She's a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, but also a naturopathic doctor. That means she looks at patients and health from a holistic point of view. She graduated from the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in 2004 and also has a degree in honors biology from McMaster University 2000. Her interest has always been how to heal the human body. She works at IDM, and we are very, very happy to have you on the show, Nadia. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
So what is a naturopathic doctor anyway?
That's a great question. I think that it probably depends on what country in the world you're in. And for me, I went to school in Canada, as you said, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. It's a postgraduate degree. It's a 4-year degree. It is a degree now. It used to be a diploma, but now it's a degree. And it's basically a complementary medicine approach. And for us, that meant combining alternative medicine with basic medical sciences. And I graduated 15 years ago, so it's quite a while back. But I actually didn't practice much as a naturopath per se. And what I mean by that is that naturopaths in Ontario are actually it's a regulated profession, and they're seen as primary healthcare providers. So they have to fulfill certain duties. They have to do physicals and lab work and all of these things. And I didn't actually ever so much practice as a naturopath. I did hold a license for a while, but when I graduated from the college 15 years ago, I moved back to my home country. I moved to Mozambique, and I was there for 10 years. So for that reason, and because I didn't have the resources, I actually started to practice as a dietitian. Life sort of took me that way. And so I've always focused on food and diet, and I didn't practice as a naturopath. When I went back to Canada, that was a little over 5 years ago, I thought I wanted to practice as a naturopath, and so I did all the work to relicense, but I didn't actually end up practicing as a naturopath because, as you know, life led me to IDM, and I started working with Dr. Fung and Megan Ramos, And that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah. Does a naturopathic doctor have to do all of the standard medical school subjects that an MD does? Is there a difference there in the curriculum?
I actually don't know what the curriculum is right now as opposed to 15 years ago, but it's not an MD. It's not a medical degree. It's an ND. And so we have pharmacology and we have the physiology and a lot of the similar things, but not to the same extent, because the focus of naturopathic medicine is to treat through nutrition, acupuncture, homeopathy. So it's a very different approach. So we do some of the medical sciences in order to understand the body. Yeah, that is not the intent in the school. Is not so that naturopaths are like medical doctors and practice like medical doctors. That's right. So your biology degree sort of helped you understand this nutrition and all of the things. I say keto, but we're really talking about nutrition and how what you eat affects your body. Actually, my biology degree, it's funny that you mentioned that. I did a biology degree because I wanted to go to medical school. Right. So as a lot of naturopaths, I don't know about now, but when I went to school, a lot of the people that went to naturopathic college, their initial intent was to go to medical school. So I initially wanted to go to medical school. So I did an undergrad that would allow me to apply to medical school. Issue number one was that at some point during my undergrad, I developed IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And then I was so very unsatisfied with the medical care that I got, that I decided that I no longer wanted to go to medical school. And that's how I got into naturopathic medicine. Neat.
How did you meet Dr. Fung?
I met Jason at a conference in San Diego.
And what made you think about working with IDM? Because it seems that the principles that IDM use are very different from your traditional naturopathic or dietetic principles.
That is very true. So I think, quote unquote, harassed Dr. Fung for a little while because I wanted to work with IDM. Yeah. And I think that probably for the same reasons that you just said, he sort of dismissed it. So I sent him a couple of emails when I returned to Canada. And I was like, I want to work with you guys. And he was like, no, sorry. Didn't know anything about me, didn't know who I was, or, and probably he gets a million of these. And then we met at the conference. And I was with a group of people that he knew. And so we were introduced. And I think that's when it made sense. I lived in Toronto at the time, and I was very eager to sort of follow this field. And I think, as you guys know, him and Megan really drastically needed help in clinic. Yeah. And I was willing and able to. And so I joined them.
So you must have had your low-carb epiphany then before you met Jason, if you met him at a low-carb conference, or were you just following to where you knew he'd be?
Actually, no, I didn't. I actually didn't know. And it was kind of a, what they say, when luck meets opportunity. I didn't go to the conference with the intent of harassing him, because when I did harass him, and he sort of, said, no, thanks, I kind of stopped harassing him.
Right, okay.
When we did meet at the conference, and this was probably a few months after, a light went off. He went, oh, I remember you. You sent me an email. And so it was actually quite interesting. And so, I guess it just was the right timing. So, but your question was, how did I end up going into this field?
Right.
As I said, I graduated 15 years ago, and I did start to work as a dietitian in Mozambique, but I didn't follow a low-carb diet or intermittent fasting. Very, very far from it. But when I developed metabolic syndrome when I realized it, at least about 9-10 years ago, I had to obviously drastically alter my mind and my approach. And so when I changed personally for my own personal health, of course, my practice had to change. And so that's what's been happening over the last few years.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, that healthcare providers have a personal epiphany when they get metabolic syndrome, find a treatment with low-carb diet, and then change their own practice. And that's a very common story we hear a lot.
So tell us about some of the first interactions that you had with patients at IDM.
So I actually had the greatest, I think, training into IDM. We now, as you know, have many other coaches. I'm no longer the only person that has joined Megan and Dr. Fung.
Right.
Yes. So there's currently 6 active coaches. So I was lucky enough to be in Toronto, as I said, and available and very eager. And I got to sit in with Megan for a long time in clinic. So that was my first. It was the summer, first of all. I wasn't working. I was on an extended quote unquote mat leave, let's say. And they wanted to get to know me, and I definitely wanted to get to know them. So my very first interaction with IDM patients was in Megan's clinics, in her groups.
Yeah.
For a long time. I was there every day that she had clinic, and for quite a few weeks.
So do you remember the first transformation of a patient, through fasting and low carb diets that you saw? And did it surprise you, or were you totally on board by that point?
Both. I think it was amazing to see, but I think that by then I had been following IDM and I kind of knew the work they were doing. And I was just this very, as I said, eager and curious. I think that a lot of things that stick with me was that when I would sit with Megan and listen to her, it was her interaction with patients, how she dealt with patients was amazing. I learned a lot from her, especially because she had to deal with groups. And up until then, I had dealt one-on-one with people. So the whole group thing was amazing to me. And the second thing is whenever Dr. Fung would come into groups, his job was to obviously review their charts and their labs and medication. And he would often show me labs, this guy, look at this guy, his, this got better and that got better. And that was amazing to see that, to see their lab work, through fasting and a lower carb diet.
So, Nadia, you had treated patients beforehand with diet as an intervention. So what was the experience going from a one-on-one experience to going to a group session style of experience?
That's a great question. A lot of people want one-on-one care, right? Because they believe they're going to get the best care that way. Carl sent me a message a little while ago. I was in a group. I just finished a group. And I think every single group that I have, somebody in the group says, it's amazing what I got out of this. It's amazing to listen into other people. It's amazing how much good information is exchanged. Megan has been doing that for many years, and I've been doing this now for, a bit over 2 years. And there's just no comparison. It's great to speak to people one-on-one and get to know people, of course. And we do that in our groups. There is that one-on-one component, because when I speak to somebody, I am talking to that person about them and about him or her, about their individualities and what they're doing and what they want to do. But then they get to sit back and listen to a whole bunch of other people that are going through similar or different things, different approaches or same approach. Even with intermittent fasting, there's so many different approaches, so many different things that people are doing.
So what kind of patients, I guess you're getting mostly people with metabolic syndrome or type 2 diabetes?
Right. So we all see people with insulin resistance and metabolic concerns. I have a particular interest in, and I think you guys might know this, or Megan may have told you this, but I have a particular interest in PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because that was my initial expression of metabolic syndrome. Okay. I was this very thin, late 20s, early 30s, trying to conceive person, and realized that was having trouble conceiving because I had PCOS. And so that was my first expression of metabolic syndrome. And then, of course, lots more came. I did become pre-diabetic, hypertensive, a whole bunch of other things came along with that. So I have a particular interest in PCOS, but in fertility, but that is not the majority of the people that I see. I see people with all kinds of expressions of metabolic syndrome. So the diabetics, people with obesity, and all the other in between as well.
I really think the group thing is powerful, because when you go down this road, you're basically bucking the traditions and all of the advice that we've been given for years, and it can feel very isolating. And so I wish that the first time I had done this, I had at least one other person who was assuring me, it's okay, you're not going to die, you're not going to have a heart attack.
You had me.
But the time before, I was essentially on my own, and the fear got the best of me. And I think that you know, that's why it really helped with Richard. That's why the podcast helps so many people, because they get it, that it's okay. There are other people like you going through the same thing and not dying, by the way.
Absolutely. And I can piggyback on that too, Carl, because when I developed metabolic syndrome 9-10 years ago, or I started to express it, I was on my own, you know, and that was crazy. And then to put it into practice on my own, sort of blindly, and then, you know, to start putting people through this sort of lifestyle, you know, it's much better now, even though it's still, as you said, very not a norm, but it's not as lonely as it used to be.
Mm.
So when you had PCOS, and I mean, was it really well known back then that it was an expression of insulin resistance, and that you know, a low carb diet was a treatment? Or I mean, how did you connect the dots for that?
Yeah, it's actually super interesting. I'm not sure if it was well known. It wasn't well known to me, even as a naturopath. I don't know if it was well known to my doctor. I was completely dismissed because I was so thin that even though I was having trouble conceiving and I kept asking my doctor for help, all they wanted to do was for a year, he dismissed me completely. For over a year, he dismissed me completely. But I started to connect the dots as far as symptoms that I had. And so then I pressed him for further lab work and an ultrasound. And then I was diagnosed with PCOS. He did not provide any advice as far as diet. He did not provide any advice as far as, you know, insulin resistance or anything else. All he said was, yes, well, likely you're going to become obese. This is what he said to me. One of the last things he said to me before I walked out the door. And he gave me fertility drugs. What happened with me, what made me connect the dots, was my husband did not want to do IVF. He made that very clear to me from very early on. It was basically like, well, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, it's because it's something going on with our bodies or something. We're just not going to do the IVF thing. And so that, you know, I was 30 or however old I was at the time. I guess 32 by then, because I had my child just before I turned 33. And that there was a sense of urgency that I felt like I need to do this. So what I did know, Richard, was that in my journey as a naturopath, well, not as a naturopath, but I guess as a dietitian in Mozambique, a lot of women had gotten pregnant after following some of my dietary approaches. And so what I decided to do at the time was I just wanted to connect the dots. I'm like, if they're getting pregnant by doing, and I had never done a diet personally because I was so thin that I never felt the need to. I didn't realize what we realize now about insulin resistance. If anything, it was the way that I ate. And because I was so thin, the way that I continued to eat, that made me sick, right? I ate very poorly. I grazed all day long. I never had a full meal. And I ate sugar and only sugar and more sugar because I was always shaky. I was always rebound hypoglycemia. And so the solution then was to eat more and more sugar. So this is why I developed this condition. I'm certain of it. I'm sure there's other factors. But so I'd never done a diet. I never felt the need to do a diet. If you're thin, why diet, right? So at that time, I thought, okay, I need to get pregnant pronto now. And so I decided that I was going to go on the strictest of my diets. I had all these plans for my clients. And so I had these quote unquote, what I call them detoxes, and only because people loved the word detox. And so it was like, once a month you're going to do this detox, and the rest of the month you're going to do this base diet. And so my base diet was a paleo-like diet. It was a low carb diet with root vegetables and fruit and whatever. And then the detox, quote unquote, was a strict low carb diet. So then, of course, in Nadia mind, and I want to get pregnant now mind, was I'm going to do this strict diets. And one thing I forgot to mention to you guys is when I connected the dots and realized I had PCOS, I did gain weight very quickly. In a period of 3 months, I gained 30 pounds all in my belly. So going from very thin to still thin, but now I have all this weight in my belly and I stopped ovulating. Yeah. So I knew enough to know I need to lose weight very quickly and I need to get pregnant. So then I went on this strict low carb diet for like a month and a half and I got pregnant.
Wow.
Something's going on here.
Something's going on.
Keto babies. We hear about that all the time, right?
That's right. That's right.
So your degree in biology from McMaster's must have been a really good foundation for you here, because it enables you to work through some of the metabolic pathways and work your way to root cause. There's a lot of people with fundamental understanding of biology who find their way that way. So that must have been really quite helpful.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that, because I do think, it's like, I don't know if it was Dr. Fung or somebody says, we learned all this in grade 9 science, but then we forget about it, right? Because I don't think that I actually didn't realize that I was insulin resistant until I tried to get pregnant the second time. So I did all of that crazy diet, quote unquote, crazy at the time diet to get pregnant. The minute I got pregnant, I threw it out the window. And I had, unfortunately, a very complicated pregnancy because I had metabolic syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. Women with metabolic syndrome getting pregnant are at a much higher risk of complications. And I had many of them, and postpartum complications, and then was in a very bad state emotionally and physically. And so didn't really even think about this for about 2 years until I wanted to get pregnant again. And then is when I realized, okay, why am I not getting pregnant again? Oh, that's right. Something to do with diet and health. And then it was a friend of mine who's a gynecologist in Mozambique. She's the one that said to me, well, of course you're not going to get pregnant, even with fertility pills, because you're insulin resistant. That was the very first time I heard that connection. And that's, and I always mention her name, Carolina, because she's the one that I think opened up my eyes to this connection. Yeah. And so once I knew that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's when it clicked.
That's when it clicked. And that's when things changed for me. That's when I said, okay, I don't need to do a diet to get pregnant, or a temporary diet. I need to change my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because at this point, though, Carl and Richard, I was on lots of medication. I was on hypertension medication, diabetic medication, depression medication, and I was overweight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when did you go back to it?
I would like to say that I went back to it before my second pregnancy, but it's not true. I went back to it after I had my second child, who's now almost 5.
Yeah.
And it worked out for me very well. I did have a better pregnancy. My mind was better. And so it was easier for me, I think, to implement all of this.
Was the birth of your second child less painful because you may have been less inflamed or that kind of thing?
If you mean the physical birth, I had a C-section for both.
Ah, okay.
So, and I want to say that I was still in a very metabolically deranged place with my second pregnancy. And so, no, what I think the big difference for me is that I had pretty severe postpartum depression with the first one, and I didn't have it with the second one.
Oh.
So my mind was in a better place for me to make the right choices that I needed to make as far as health.
How many people do you estimate that you've helped?
Oh, gosh, I have no idea. I do want to say one thing. Just before this call, one of my clients in my group, I mentioned to them that I was having a call with you guys, and she very friendly reminder that you guys have a bajillion followers, and so no pressure. So I guess we anyone that hears us, not just in clinic, right, but anyone that can take away something from what we've been trying to tell people, I guess. Has been. So who knows?
Who knows?
I have no idea. I know that when I worked in Mozambique, I was there for 10 years. I had thousands of patients because I was the only person doing what I was doing, and I was very busy, and I was very lucky to be in that situation. And a lot of these people were very, very tolerant, and especially in the first few years, because I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. And they were very tolerant, and I learned a lot from them, much more so than they learned from me. And so I was in a position to see lots of people. And then now I'm in a position to see lots of people because of IDM, because I work in a group setting.
So, Nadia, what advice would you give to young women who are newly diagnosed with PCOS or suspect that they may have PCOS?
I think our advice is really the best general advice that I could possibly give, not just for women with PCOS, but anybody with any expression of insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, is to understand insulin. And as Dr. Fung would say, I always quote Dr. Fung, because as he would say, if the problem is insulin, then the solution is to lower insulin. So it's first, you have to understand this key concept, because if you don't get it, if you don't understand that, then you're going to have a really, really hard time. Because, you guys probably know this. Lots of people that do keto, if you're eating ketogenically, quote unquote, but you're eating 10 meals a day, you're not going to lower your insulin. Right. If you're looking to lower insulin, yet your meal is at 11 o'clock at night, then 11 p.m., it's just not going to happen that one for you. So I think that the key concept here, and I know it's a big topic, of course. And I always say this is why Dr. Fung has helped so many people with the obesity code or the diabetes code, is because if you understand the code, then everything else falls into place and is so much simpler, whether you're following a ketogenic diet or not.
Right. The fundamental principles of lowering insulin is what you really need to focus on, however you can do that. Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to nutritionists, dietitians, naturopaths, even doctors that are listening?
It really is the same. I think a lot of these people they've forgotten about insulin. And so they're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on calories, and they're still putting people through these low calorie diets and starvation diets and eat every 2 hours and following these conventional concepts that do not work and actually put people in a much worse state.
Yeah. So again, learn about insulin.
That's it.
Yeah. What's next for you? What's in your inbox? What's coming up in your life?
I am pretty content, to be honest. I very much like what I do. I love working with the IDM team. I love working in groups. As my husband would say, I'm in my element. They let me talk all day long. How great is that? I get to do these interviews with you guys more and more. Lucky for me. And so I just really like spreading the message. I love hearing and learning from our clients as well, because again, I still think that I learn a lot more from being with them than they do from being with me. But I'm pretty content. I plan to stay on with IDM. I work full time with IDM and exclusively for IDM. I no longer see patients on my own, and I haven't for a long time. I'm just very interested and very eager to continue. And IDM has grown so much, and Megan and Dr. Fung have put so much great work into this program, and I get to benefit from that for sure. Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, you're doing great work, so keep it up. Yeah, keep calm and keto on. I'll try. Thanks, Nadia. It's been a delight talking to you. Same here, guys. Thanks a lot. All right. We'll see you soon. Oh, that was fascinating. It's interesting to see how people end up working with Jason and Megan at IDM. One of our friends, Brenda, did the same. She was just very helpful to a lot of people on Facebook, and approached them, and they're so busy because the universe is making diabetics faster than we can fix them. Right. And so all of us are flat out trying to help as many people as we can. It's true. It's hard to do it one-on-one. It is. But, they've got a really good system where they have groups where the groups reinforce each other. And Nadia was able to explain that really well, how that kind of way of coaching people is very effective. Very good. Well, my friend, are you hungry? I know I'm not. Actually, no, I'm not hungry. We've had a massive meal today. Starting with breakfast, which was my first recipe. So I guess we should call out recipes. What you got, Carl? All right. Well, I woke up this morning and decided to make some pan-roasted pork belly. Yeah. You've actually been enjoying the meats here in Australia, haven't you? I love the meats in Australia. Even at Costco, the meats are so fatty and so varied and
lovely looking. You have Wagyu here.
We have Wagyu, but we had
Costco.
At Costco, we had Angus beef, which is like, so the Wagyu is $60 a kilogram. Yeah. There was Angus beef, which is just as good as the Wagyu, which is $30 a kilo. It's half the price. And
it's actually beefier, right?
I think
less
it's
fattier, beefier.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, it helps if you can age it a little bit, and that'll make it look the same as the Wagyu.
First 2 nights I got here, we had ribeye, the same meal both nights. It was great. Couldn't get enough of it.
Ribeye and fennel salad. Yeah.
So roasted pork belly in a pan. So typically you want to slow cook pork belly.
Yeah.
But this is a way to do it in a half hour or so.
Yeah. And this is pork belly cut into 1-inch strips with no rind on it.
Exactly.
Right?
So you're going to cut it into 1-inch strips. If you have a whole pork belly, it's probably best to score it first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're scoring the strips, the fat. So you want to score it and cut it into 1-inch strips. And the only other ingredients are salt, black pepper, and fennel seed.
Yeah, fennel goes really well with pork, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And don't ask me how much, because if you should know by now, after cooking meat or anything, when you sprinkle salt and pepper and fennel and stuff on meat, you should know about how much. How much is too much? How much is not enough? You know, sprinkle it on there liberally, but don't kill yourself. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm like the king of inexact recipes. I'm just, just put some salt on it. Oh, it's all right. All right. So it should be scored. You're going to boil the pork belly in water for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right,
and that's going to cook it through, right?
It's going to cook it through, yeah. So that's important. It's going to soften it up and cook it through. Now you're going to completely dry each piece because you don't want it to go in the fry pan wet, right?
No.
Yep. And now you're going to, after they're dried, coat them with the salt, the pepper, and the fennel seed. You don't need any olive oil, any oil, or whatever.
No, this is going to go hit the dry pan and it's going to render, right?
It's going to render out. The pan's going to be full of fat when you're done.
Yeah.
And what I did is I cut the pork belly strips in half because it was a small pan.
Sure.
And I only cooked like 5 pieces in the pan because that's all that would fit. And I didn't want to crowd them out too much.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you have, too many things crowded in a pan, what happens?
Yeah.
Steam.
Exactly.
And it doesn't crisp up. Okay. So you're going to fry in a cast iron skillet over medium heat, 5 minutes per side, 5 minutes again on the fat side. So 15 minutes and you're done. And when you flip it on the fat side down, you take some sort of weight, and you have a bacon press. I have one at home too. Yeah.
Or you could use the bottom of another pan.
Bottom of another pan with a brick on it, something like that. Just hold it down.
Just throw a brick on it if you want.
And folks, that's it. Just take it out of the pan, let it rest for a little bit.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do with all of that pork fat?
Well, see, I like to have recipes that use the fat and turn it into part of the meal. Because normally what you do is you throw the fat away. That rendered fat that came out, you might put it in a storage container and use it as lard. No. We're going to actually put it back in the meal.
That's right.
So what I did was I took the fat off the heat and I let it cool down for a couple of minutes. And the reason you do this is because we're going to add some liquid, some water-based food to that fat.
Yeah.
We don't want to create a fat fire.
Yeah, because you really could. I mean, if you took
got hot boiling oil and you put some
water in there, oh my God,
it's going to
take your hair off.
Yeah, it's going to fly. So anyway, what I did was I added about 1/4 cup of low-carb tomato sauce. Well, in fact, I actually use cubes of smoked tomato that I make in my smoker. And what I do is I take tomatoes, I take the skin off them. I put them in, I score them with a little cross, put them in boiling water, pull the skin off the tomato, cut it in half and put it in my hot smoker. And I smoke these tomatoes, and that basically gets this barbecue flavor into them. We've done this. I
heard a dingo
before.
Oh no, it's just your dog.
It's just my dog. That's Bear. Hello, Bear. He's getting hungry.
So how long do you smoke the tomatoes for?
Oh, only 15 minutes or so.
That's it. That will just enough to get the smoke in there.
Just get the flavor in, and they'll soften a bit. And then basically I just whiz them up in a food processor and put them in an ice cube mold, and they sit in my freezer for a couple. Those I think about maybe 2 years old.
So we had like maybe 3/4 cup, maybe a cup of fat in the bottom of the pan, and we put like 3 ice cubes worth of tomato, and that was perfect.
That was it. And so But you could also put in, so you could put in some wine in there. You can put, and if it's not emulsifying, so you really want the fat and the water to combine together, and you need it to be slightly lower than boiling point temperature. And if it doesn't emulsify, you can add some sodium citrate, and that will help. This is from the recipe we did the other day with duck fat. That will help it emulsify. You can also add a little bit of cream to it as well.
Well, we did that too. So after you melted the tomato, then you put in some heavy cream. And just continued to whiz that up. And I think that was it.
That was
really,
it, pretty much.
Because it's already got salt, pepper, and fennel and fat. What more do you need?
Put it in a bowl, and you dip your pork belly strips into the tomato sauce.
And that's exactly what we did. You should have seen it. I mean, we had these pork belly strips we were dipping in this luscious sauce.
And 5 little strips of pork belly was more than enough for 2
and we were
robust, hungry men.
We were sated till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Easy. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Wow, that was quite a show.
Of course, if you have anything you want to tell us, something we said wrong, something you don't agree with, some more research that you found to support or refute anything that we've said, send it by email to dudes@2ketodudes.com or post it on our website.
And you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at 2ketodudes. And make sure to use the hashtag 2ketodudes.
And of course, if you want to join the free ketogenic forum, it's forum.2keto.com. And you can have a look around the ketogenic forum without needing to create an account by starting with success.2keto.com.
And if useless swag is your fancy, like t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other junk with witty keto sayings on them.
Assless chaps.
No. Thank you for that visual. Head over to gear.2keto.com.
And if you want a shot at getting some of that swag for free, join the 2 Keto Dudes fan club. You'll be eligible to win something in every show. Go to fanclub.2keto.com.
Assless chaps. Oh. And if you feel like supporting our forums and all the podcasts we produce, think about making a monthly pledge on our Patreon page at patreon.2keto.com.
You can also see all of our podcasts and other videos on YouTube at youtube.2keto.com.
And if you haven't already, please go leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's how new people get to know about what we do. 2 Keto Dudes is brought to you by 2 Keto LLC, who strives to support the low-carb community with podcasts and other publications. Well, Richard, keep calm, keto on, and fast when you can.
Keep calm, keto on, Carl, and Keto Fest down under at least once a year.
Oi!
Oi!
All right. And we'll see you next time
on 2 Keto Dudes.